I get a lot of messages, and Andrew hits the record button, so I'll just continue my sentence because I got nothing to hide from you guys. That there are people who are in support of Andrew, and a lot of people who tell me, hey, I'm kind of like Andrew. I understand it. One guy even sent me a message. I can say the name if you like. He says, "Listen, give Andrew a break. Some of us wake up we're at 96% of our capacity of blood pressure just when we wake up, and any little thing is going to knock us to where we're going to basically stroke out." So I get where Andrew's coming from. He wakes up at he wakes up on red already. He's like, some of us are just like that. So he goes, but I appreciate, you kind of, having a little therapy session. One guy said it was like the uncle taking you to the garage. It's like, it's fun stuff. Anyway, welcome
It's
back.
interesting having a public persona. Welcome back to Lucas Tigers and Bronze, episode 938. It's interesting having a public persona where people tell you things that they think about your personality and vibe and all that stuff. And it's like, you have to be able to filter, right? Like, that's true. That doesn't apply. That's bullshit. That's
I can tell you though, some people know me better than I know myself. Some people will send a message, be like, "Hey, I could tell today you were feeling," and I'm like, "Holy cow!" I guess you watched the YouTube version and can just
you were like Dylan Brooks feeling it, or like Kevin Durant.
So was there a fight last night? I did not get a chance to watch the game. I think I was in an Uber while the first half was going on, and by the time I got home, forget it. But was there a fight between Draymond and Dylan Brooks? That was your prediction.
There was no fight. There was a lot of weird near smooching with each other. Like Draymond did this whole thing where he rubbed his elbows on Dylan Brooks' face. Dylan Brooks shot 6 air balls. You didn't see the clip?
I didn't watch any of it.
He got a rebound and it was weird. He genie in the bottle all over Dylan.
Do that again. You do. Yeah, that was a Christina Goldberg era right there. It was nice.
If you guys are listening, are you guys Britney fans or Christina fans? Because we haven't talked about Christina 90s.
Do you have to be both?
You don't have to be either.
Do you have to be one of either? It's like, are you or? I mean, can you be like a Fred Durst fan? Is that Christina?
Mm-hmm.
You have her in the background?
She barks.
I mean, some people's bark is worse than their bite. Exactly. No, but listen, what I'll tell you is this. Let that dog out, man. Let that dog come on in here. Bring the dog into the show if you want. What are you, a dog sitting? It's okay. I don't want to get involved. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. Audio problems are my thing, though. That's kind of the deal. So a couple things. Number one, I had the opportunity last night to go to a collector's night thrown in New York City by Brigandy's Coins and Collectibles. You guys have seen some posts about it today. Just an interesting thing, like a dinner for folks who collect all kinds of stuff. Not a lot of those type of events in the hobby. It's not for everyone. I enjoyed it. I really did. I had a good time. Get a lot of great feedback from people who were there, people who were watching it. I think it's on YouTube. I had a good time, man. I really did. There was a guy on, kind of presenting his wares before me. And I'll give you the highlights of it. Not only was Rick Probstein there and the owner of University Archives, and so you get the first panel, and Rick comes out there with about $7 million in 3 cards. He's got a Ruth rookie, and he's got a Brady, like the highest graded Brady champ ticket, and he's got a Mike and PSA 9 Bowman rookie. I mean, that's got to be close to $1 million itself, and that's the least of the 3 cards. And you got University Archives is sitting up there with $1 million George Washington autograph document. I mean, it's just crazy. And then the next panel, you got a dude who shows up with rocks, like meteorites and dinosaur teeth and like megalodon teeth and just craziness. And, he's into like minerals. So, I mean, that's a disparity of audience, but I went right up there. I didn't even wait for the microphone. And, the room was a little cold. I mean, you're presenting about teeth and rocks, it's not really going to, carry the audience too much. And I don't even wait for the mic. And I said, listen, anybody else think that rock guy, that mineral guy was full of shit? And people were looking at me like, what? He just presented. He's a nice guy. How are you full of shit? And I said, I went through his stuff. I went through his whole box of rocks. Anybody who claims to be an expert in minerals and elements like this guy and doesn't show up here with vibranium from Wakanda, I just think he's full of shit. So got a nice little laugh, got everybody going. You didn't laugh because you don't even know what the hell that means. And
I'm just picturing Hank from Breaking Bad rolled in with his. They're not rocks; they're minerals.
Yeah, well, so there are people who collect this stuff, and one of the things that he said was, there was, I think Buster was actually interviewing what would be the Mona Lisa of minerals, and he talked about this find in Bolivia, I think it was. And, normally this type of rock is found in tiny little specks, but one guy found a 7-incher, and the 7-incher is priceless. And of course, as soon as I got up there, a room full of men, I had to make, if only 7 inches was priceless. I mean, tell my ex-wife that. Meanwhile, I don't have an ex-wife, but it was, I was in my Henny Youngman kind of phase. You got to loosen up the room.
What I'm hearing is you walked in, you were sort of feeling yourself last night.
It was fun because I was sort of in my element. There were people there who were younger than me. There were people there who were older than me. I didn't feel necessarily like the old man in the room, which I sometimes the vibe I get with you. When I pull out my 80s stuff, that's quote unquote vintage.
Do you really get the old vibe when
100%.
we do this?
Yeah, man, I'm not cool.
You're 14 years old.
Yeah, but I don't.
Years older than me.
I have not partaken in any recreational drugs so far today. So that puts me way behind you in that category.
You have like 3 topics. It's recreational.
Oh, this is what makes me feel old.
My Duke Blue Devil beard.
No, okay, but
I like the fact that I have no responsibility.
The beard has grown on me. You look like you have aged 27 years in the 3 years we've done this podcast, and in a good way. Kind of had
maybe
like a
you're not the old man. Maybe I aged because of this podcast.
That's so crypto. I get to learn about crypto from you. Wouldn't trust me if it wasn't for the podcast and you. I wouldn't probably know anything about NFTs.
You really believe that? You don't think 100%. You would have swerved into that lane if it wasn't for
negative? 100% no. And I know there are other people listening who will say the same thing, who only got into NFTs listening to the stuff that, that we were putting out there, 100%. Cards to the Max messaged me the other day and said he's still doing that stuff. And, he still has some of these things and, he's still in it and made a ton, of money and cool moves and, met new communities because he got into it. First one was us,
So can I throw a little context? And then I want to hear how the crew at Burgundy, what they had to say. So today, Silicon Valley Bank went under, right? Or got hold. It's dealing with a tremendous crisis on their hands. We don't even know the fallout just yet. We've completely forgotten about the billions lost in FTX, which is, if you really think about what is a crypto exchange, it is a bank of sorts. It holds money, right? It advises.
Yep.
So this is a second bank that's gone under in 3 months. Now, we know it's been harder to sell cards. We know interest rates have gone up, right? We've seen white-collar layoffs, which is actually counterintuitive because usually it's blue-collar, but we've seen white-collar layoffs, rightfully so. If you're spending your entire day on TikTok and doing coffee and all that stuff, maybe these people things got frothy. We know that. We've said that. It's an established fact. It was frothy for 12 years, and then COVID made it extra frothy, and here's the fallout, right? How do these people, are they collectors? Doesn't even matter. They don't even think short-term economy, what's going on. Are they half collector, half investor, where they're like, okay, I'm into this stuff good. I don't need to worry about it. I'm a collector. But I am sort of concerned, or actually I'm not so concerned about the next, 12 to 18 months. Or was it like, man, I think there's a little bit of trouble in the waters. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, listen, lot of topics there. I mean, you start with Silicon Valley Bank. It is actually
like that.
Huh?
You said it funny. Silicon
Valley Bank. No, I mean, listen, it's SVB, and a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of VC-backed companies that rely on SVB to back their loans, to some of the companies that you know of and use on a daily basis, bank there, use loans from that company to now build the brands that they are now. There are a couple of folks out there, who would say that a government bailout might even be something that would work for a company like that. It's, it's almost too big to fail. And it definitely impacted a lot of other banks. It's going to be interesting to see what wound up happening. I mean, that stock in that got halted. A lot of banks got halted during the day. There are losses. It's interesting because I'm wondering whether this is just the first domino to fall, whether there are going to be, other dominoes to fall. I talked
just
a lot.
Jump in here before I feel like it is a good move.
Yeah, please.
I believe that too big to fail is impossible this time, given everything we've heard. Because what's behind the scenes with too big to fail is actually you have to print more money. Yeah. And the number one, this is like explicit. This isn't up for debate. This is what Jerome Powell said. We are fighting inflation. That's his goal, right? So the too big to fail thing is we can't go at it the second time around. We can't flood the system with money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand that. It's maybe it's a public-private kind of bailout that's going to have to happen. Where it's the same money and then partly backed by the government. I mean, you had that Bear Stearns. Yeah, J.P. Morgan. They were on the hook for trouble. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. But the point being, I want to move away from the specifics of the bank, and you talk about the macroeconomic pictures and what's going on with the world, right? I mean, interest rates keep rising. It's tougher to borrow money. Obviously, this is an interesting thing that happened with this bank now. Um, there are companies that owe a lot of money. I mean, you and I have talked about stock, right? I'm buying Verizon stock. Not no secret to anybody there. I like it for the dividend. But they have a lot of debt, and managing that debt becomes harder when the interest rates continue to go up, making it a less safe play. If somebody has $100 and something billion in debt that they have to manage, then and it costs more money to manage that debt because the interest rate on those debts are variable, and rising interest rates make a difficult economy for a lot of these companies. And then when you layer in a backdrop, and guys, we'll get to cards in a second. But
This
it is
impacts
important to
cards.
talk about this, right? It impacts the amount of of capital that's out there. Throw this into the equation. I mean, not to get too into your backyard, but I mean, Russia just ratcheted up the attacks on the Ukraine, and launched significant missile strikes last week, more so than they have at any time during this conflict. Iran is said to be within a month away from more nuclear capabilities than they've ever had, and Israel is talking about going in there preemptively, which would basically be the same thing that Russia did to Ukraine, pitting us in an interesting spot. About allowing one nation to go in preemptively and not allowing another one, and at the same time you have
But with the
China
home and
watching.
away was
Yeah,
is
right,
flipped.
exactly. You have China watching us get involved in all of these things here, and while attention's over there, maybe they go into Taiwan, and now you have a whole weird, economic picture, world turmoil picture, a whole bunch of uncertainty, elections on the horizon. Uncertainty would be my biggest word. And when there's uncertainty, people are usually a little tighter with their money. Um, a lot of times on purpose. You know what I mean? Because they don't have as much. It impacts cards because this isn't. I mean, we use our disposable income on cards, most of us. And if that disposable income's not there, what keeps the cards afloat, right?
We also have a lot of inventory in cards. So we are buyers, but there's dealers too. And is so scary, interesting, fascinating about being a dealer is how companies do mark to market? Like they kind of know what their investments are every day and what they're worth. How do you mark to market cards? How do you know how much what your inventory is worth? You go to a Dallas show, you think your inventory is worth one, but is it really worth that? And I'm really interested to see how that plays out. And we saw a good few months here, right? January, February, March, good relative to what happened September, December. But last summer was dry.
Yep. Yeah.
Dry is not good for cards.
So let's take this one step further, right? So cards, we don't want to ring the death knell on cards, right? But what Andrew was telling you for the first 15 minutes here is pay attention to the economics, pay attention to the world picture, pay attention to what's going on there, because whether you realize it or not, it impacts cards. And sometimes we think of, hey, look, we have our cards, we have our cards. There are other things, at play that will
May I
impact.
caveat it?
Yeah,
It
please.
impacts how we feel about cards. So it doesn't actually impact the card. It impacts how we feel about it. Because we could hold the card and be like, I love this card.
Yep.
Or we could hold the card and be like, I think I could sell this card for $1,500 and I sell it at $750. I feel differently about that card in a illiquid versus a liquid market. So it's my
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. So I'm going to pivot really quickly about how we feel about cards and how we feel about what we're investing in with what I texted you last night after I left as much as I love being in
That was a
Burgundy,
sick text you sent me.
right?
Not in a good way. Whatever that was.
Not that one. That's just a picture. I mean, that was
A
that was my toe. No, so
Was it? Oh,
it was so here. You love the foot picks, pal. Don't even pretend. People know
That's
you better
never
than
been my
this.
thing.
They're not gonna.
I have a lot
they
of
know.
weird things. That has never been my thing.
They know. Come on, the hairy knuckle on the big toe. You're drooling. So here's where I go. You say, hey, you're in Dallas and your cards are you think your cards are worth this. I hear that and I think to myself, I was in the room last night. The room that you're in can give you a false sense of security, and the room that you're in could also color what your thoughts are about what you have in your own collection. You got a bug there, or I'm confusing you. So the room you're in,
My internet just cut out for like 15 seconds, and now we're back.
and by the
That's super weird.
necessarily in the physical four wall room. It could be in the Instagram chat that you're in, or the Facebook group that you're in, or wherever it is you get your card news. It could be the crossover on on Friday night with Chris Hoja and Josh. Right? It could be wherever it is. That room that you're in will color what you think about your collection. Now, what do I mean? Kind of confusing. Last night, I left that room with Brigandy with a lot of vintage collectors, a lot of vintage cards, a lot of Type 1, a lot of photos, a lot of autographs, thinking that the best investment in the world is Ty Cobb, and I should be getting vintage cards that are autographed by people. Or, hey, I better start buying postcards. But if I left that show and bought a whole bunch of Ty Cobb cards and got on a plane today and flew to Dallas and then spent my day in the Dallas show, I'd be looking to get out of all my Ty Cobb cards. I'd be saying, holy shit, like Ty Cobb is
He's not in fashion.
they want Evan Mobley, or they want an RPA, they want one of these new things, and then I'd leave and I'd go to Mint, at the end of the month, and there would be something else, that's the flavor. Maybe it's Peyton Manning cards because he's going to be there, or who the heck knows what it is. So I guess the reminder that I got, and it's funny because I say it, hey, Instagram and being online, that's not the whole hobby, and don't let it color you. Just what you see here does. I'm going to expand that, right? Because it almost has a negative connotation. Like I'm saying, hey, you're only seeing the Instagram hobby. Go out and go to a show. Go out and do this. It's more than that. The hobby is all of this stuff. It's a room full of vintage lovers. It's guys in Dallas who are there to flip cards and move in and out of inventory. It is what you see on Instagram. It is what you see at shows. It's a whole bunch of stuff. And depending upon, where you are, what kind of mood people are in, what season it is, different things will look like the it thing where you're there. And I guess the pivot from that, I want to know your thoughts on it, is a lot of this shit is storytelling. It really is. A lot of this hobby is storytelling. So many people last night, I don't want to call it pumping your bags, right? But I'm not trying to convince anybody to buy a Billy Ripken FF Batnod error card. I just think it's cool. But when somebody comes up there and talks about like a postcard of Ty Cobb and it's so limited, I want to say, yeah, it's limited because no one wants it, and I could be wrong. Like I don't want
to do the once it shtick.
Yeah,
no one wants. Can someone make a like a GIF or one of those things that like are on Instagram? It's Cage and it says, "No one wants it.
No one wants it."
You know what I'm talking about? Like those like little animated characters.
Yeah,
vintage is vanilla.
But I felt bad though. But I felt bad because I don't want to say no one wants it, because obviously someone wants it. And what I take away from that is you may be somebody who fits in better with the Dallas show. You may be somebody who loves the action, who loves the modern stuff, who wants to bet on your guy. And if you change your mind a couple weeks into the season and want to switch that guy for another guy, go to Dallas, get in and out of cards and do your stuff. If that's what floats your boat, then that's great. That's how you hobby. And I shouldn't say, hey, cards are stupid.
The first 15 minutes was me saying that modern guys are going to be really hard to do anything with. Like, if I was to prosper on modern guys, I would rather bet, Giannis to win MVP. I think it's really hard to prospect in a down economy on modern guys with supply increasing of basically everybody excluding 2009.
I guess the story is this, right? I put a Lou Gehrig card on the table and show it to folks, and it's one of the first things that I bought after I got a paycheck with some, disposable income. And the first thing that the vintage crowd said in layering on top of that was, hey, aren't you happy you put your money into Lou Gehrig and not Ja Morant? Because Lou Gehrig can't go on a live with a gun.
Do they say
the funny thing is, yeah, no, and yes, in that room, it's almost like, hey, look at that. Like, of course, vintage rules. But if someone said that in Dallas, there would probably be a whole bunch of people there saying, are you kidding me? Now's the best time to buy Ja. His cards are depressed. He's going to get out of this. It's not going to be a whole thing. And he's going to end up, I'm going to buy him and I'm going to run it up, Did
you see the Kyrie video on Instagram or like the clips of it?
No.
Like, he was like,
tell me about it.
Sage.
I remember the Sage. I've made fun of the burning Sage a couple times. Did he do it again in Dallas?
Are you a Kyrie guy or not?
I don't mind Kyrie. I actually enjoyed Uncle Drew.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Uncle Drew movie.
So he talked about how I'll make it short. Cage is a long-winded. I'm short-winded, so just in
no, come on, everybody knows
how gambling has infiltrated sports and in some ways ruined it. I would argue you could apply that same logic, whether you agree or disagree with it, to cards. this prospect that you're gambling on Ja Morant, now's the time to buy because he's, his prices are lower, has infiltrated cards. And you guys can say good, bad, and different, whatever. But I don't imagine that the crowd that was at Briganti last night are gamblers at all. I think they just want to put their money in a safe place into things they like. I don't think they feel like they're gambling at all.
Are you asking me whether I think they're gamblers? They are gamblers.
Do you think that they are?
I would think they would tell you that they gamble in a different way. They gamble in price discovery. They gamble on things that are not. They might be old, they might be vintage, but they're not known yet. So the guy who University Archives, who presidential
they're anthropologists,
sort of hobby anthropologists, like almost
paleontologists. About, like, Ross, you were at dinner with Ross last night from Friends.
No. Yes. No, I've actually never watched a full episode of Friends from the beginning to the end. There's a nice little admission for you guys.
Because of the sitcom, you don't like that they're always laughing?
I don't know. I don't know that. It's just, it was, what was that? Like mid to late 90s? Mm-hmm. That show when it came out? Like I was in college. I wasn't like watching Friends. He was buying
Beanie Babies and Furbies and selling them on eBay, guys. Don't have him paint this picture of him in college.
I was buying $17 Milwaukee Best kegs for $17.
I'm playing Crazy Bones.
I don't know about that. Maybe listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony, maybe. But no, but the point is the gambling would be different, right? So, I mean, the guy from University Archives, he showed up with what he considers a new segment. They're not that expensive right now, but it's weird. They're encased, I forget the name of the company that encased them, almost a grading company, pieces of memorabilia, right? No, like a grading company, dude. But they weren't grading cards. They were grading, he had a swatch of the leather from the car seat where JFK was shot. A piece of Napoleon's like pants, coal from the Titanic. So I would tell you that's gambling. That's his gambling. You might not like that. You may think it's stupid, but he's taking a chance buying these things that maybe that's a new segment of investing that could go up. Buster, who's buying SpongeBob things when no one else is buying them, even though Buster is young, I wouldn't call him vintage. He's buying SpongeBob. He's making a bet that in 20 years, the people who have disposable income will be huge SpongeBob fans. And if he holds that stuff long enough and invests in that, it might not be what everyone's cup of tea is now. He's gambling that way. The dude, Pete collects, or I forget his name, Sports Card Pete, who was on the panel with me, he likes postcards. Not a lot of people do. And I think he would say he's betting that postcards might get bigger. The sports card tickets guys are the same kind of thing. Those vintage guys love tickets. And I think those people would say their gamble was buying tickets early and hoping that tickets caught on. It's a different type of gamble.
Is it one of those things where they're buying, let's say 100 things and they hope 2 or 3 pop or 10 pop because they're getting them at such low prices because no one knows about it?
It's part of it. I mean, I think your point is taken, right? Even though they're gambling, the ticket guys would tell you they're buying tickets because they love tickets. The postcard guy would tell you, I really love the image on this. It's a lot of storytelling. But yeah, I mean, it's like we talk about, like, people investing in hobby companies, right? Or people investing in any companies. They invest in 10 and hope that 1 is the one that pays off and pays for the 9 that don't, right? So I'm sure not all of their ideas pay off. But I mean, the flip side is these guys would say they're collectors. They would say that they're buying this stuff because if it doesn't take off, they, quote, wouldn't mind holding it anyway. I believe that a little more in that crowd than I do if somebody who bought a shit ton of Cade Cunningham RPAs said, you know what, I'm buying these. And even if the price goes down, I don't care. I just love to hold Cade Cunningham RPAs that have a jersey that he never touched. Know what I mean?
Like one of those people on Instagram. You got collector groups of 1.
I mean, listen, your point is, and let's take it, I think one of the better comparisons that we're starting to make here is sports betting versus buying cards to bet on a player or a team. And we did it best, I think, with our recent episode this week with Giannis. Right? Giannis may win the MVP. Giannis may win the championship. If you really think that's going to happen, previously we would talk about, well, here's the card to put your money in because it's going to go up if that happens. I don't know whether that's the case now, especially with Giannis.
Sports betting has the same risk reward in any economic climate, whereas cards have different risk rewards in different economic climates.
So I bought a LeBron card last year. Everybody knows. Even some other podcasts that have huge names behind them want to make fun of me for my LeBron purchase.
Joke's on you guys. He was going to go to the school of Andrew anyway. He wasn't going to go to college.
So what's
You're going to
what's
put him to
funny
work
about
here
it?
with us.
I don't even want to. I'm going to have some great material for that. I'm saving it for when I'm on that show. I think the 20th I'm going on, so it'll be fun.
Shun.
Cut, shun, unshun. So, but here's a perfect example. I bought a LeBron card when he was not playing well, right? And the card was in a worse holder. And I somehow got the card in a better holder and sold it on the day that he broke the record for scoring more points than anybody else has ever done. And he was not yet injured, you name it. And yet, because
what about the hours of research?
Because a lot of hours, I spent a lot of time on it, but because the market went down, even though my bet was right, even though that bet was right a couple of times, the right bet on when he would break the record, the right bet on that the card shouldn't be in the holder that it's in and it should be in a better. I mean, all those bets were correct, and LeBron did everything I expected him to do. Maybe even more. He was playing at an MVP level before this recent injury. I think top 10 in the league, playing at a real high level. It didn't make a difference because the economy was going down and the card market was going down. That doesn't happen with bets. You could be in a bad economy. You make a bet, it wins, you win. So that's the difference, right?
Not endorsing gambling, by the way, guys. Just using it as a benchmark.
No, but we used to talk about it, and obviously it was a lot easier when when the card market was going up. Hell, you could bet on a guy and still win, even if it lost. But we used to talk about that, like why sports bet on somebody, right? Like if you think that the Nets are gonna go on a nice run, bet on the Nets, or bet on Kevin Durant's cards. Well, previously, when the economy was good and everything was good, you bet on the Nets and they happened to lose that game, you lost all your money. But you bet on the Nets, they lose that game, but KD scored 40 points in that game. And then the next 4 games they win, his card's probably going to go up. And it was.
That only happens when a market is frothy. And here's the key, actually, to all this. As much as we hate them, flippers are what drive prices up. It's so funny. We hate them when the market's going down. But we don't hate him when your Trae Young is going to someone and he's like, I already sold it to someone else. I don't even care that I paid 20% over comps. Do you remember that day? You sold a Trae Young card for $3,500 for his silver.
Yeah, and I was mad. I was like, oh, man, he's going to have a great year. Yeah, he's a great year.
They were selling like Tic Tacs. But anyone, I don't care the price.
So he sold that Trae Young card for $3,500 he's talking about, right? And let me just throw this one out there. Silver 10. So I'm going to take it back to the beginning of this episode. And I also do want to say, well, you have to be mindful of all the macroeconomic features of, all the picture, the macro picture, and, the socioeconomic pictures and everything is there. Don't go too far away from the Warren Buffett-ism of, when everybody is being fearful, be greedy. And when everybody's being greedy, be fearful. And what do I mean by that is, yeah, I sold that Trae Young silver for $3,500. Do you remember when I bought it? I bought it when someone came into our group right before COVID.
Oh, right.
And said, sky is falling. This is going to be really, really bad. Everything's going to be horrible. COVID's going to be worse than it's going to be. I'm talking to people in the government.
And I have receipts. Instagram group has the search function.
So, I mean, it's going to be real bad. Like sky's falling. We even have an episode about it. Like Chicken Little says the sky's falling, like the whole deal. And I happened to have a little bit of disposable, cash at the time, and for $2,400, I think, 25, somewhere in that 22 to 2,800 range, I picked up a Trae Young red PSA 10, the color match parallel, a Trae Young silver, an SGA silver, and a Luka silver PSA 10, all 4 of them, for under $3,000. And the Trae, which some would argue right now is probably the worst card in that bunch, sold a couple months later for $3,500. So yeah, I mean, you'd like to say, wow, be careful, be smart with your money. Sometimes taking a couple $1,000 gamble. I'm not telling you to throw too much on the line, but it paid off for me. But that's because the market went up. It's easy to bet right when the market's flying,
The reason I bring it up is a market going down or less buyers or whatever we just talked about, it's also an opportunity for people who have the cash on hand to buy
the dry powder.
Yeah.
Can I throw something out at you?
Sure.
It'll be a question the way only Cage can do it. It's a statement, but then at the end, I'm going to say, "And what do you think about that?" Or Joe
Please.
Beningo. Joe Beningo on WFAN would be like, "How about that? How about that?" That's he would just say something and be, "How about that?" That's how he would ask the question to people, right?
I'm eagerly listening.
I hear
This is how
people.
you had to sit in Soviet Russia.
I am really all right. So sit like that. Go grab some vodka in one hand, grab some yogurt in another, play
Yogurt.
Tetris, and listen. You ready? So here you go. so
Yogurt.
some pelmeni, some birch leaves, and beat yourself with it. I mean, what do you? How Russian do you want me to get here? You want some Baltica #9? Nice, heavy, high alcoholic beer. It's a good one. Want to open the banya up? I mean, what are we doing? So here
I
we
miss
go.
banyas. Go ahead.
I find it funny how some of the hobby folk can kind of put themselves on a pedestal above some of the other money making things from the last couple of years. What I mean by that is, I believe that you can compare the LeBron exquisite to Bitcoin. Now, if you tell the LeBron people and the big basketball collectors and the folks who kind of run the hobby what I just said, they would laugh at you and say, "Ha, you're just an NFT idiot. You're just a crypto moron," right? But think about the price appreciation. Think about the people who bought these items at their peak or on their run up, and think about how they have come down, right? Think about the people who were in Bitcoin early, who were actually believers in the utility of it, believers in the way it was going to change, the way finances work, you name it, and wrote it up and took their profit. And then there are people who are buying in at 40, 50, 60, 70, almost $69,000 for Bitcoin. And then look at the LeBron Exquisite, which was, $150,000, and then it was 200, and then it was, and then you watch Bitcoin precipitously fall from 69 to 40 to 30 to 22 to 17. There was a time this year where within a 2-month period, 3-month period, I know of a sale of the LeBron Exquisite in PSA 8 for $900,000. And then within a couple of months, a BGS 9, I believe, basically similar cards, sold for $500,000. And it has just continued down, 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 just like Bitcoin.
I
How
have a
about
question
that?
for the audience.
Yeah.
Are you guys listening to our show because of cards or because of you're agnostic to also where opportunities are? Like you
Yeah.
can't just dig in the same hole and expect why is there nothing here?
So this was the point that I was trying to make. Why is it that when you say, "Hey, we should have dry powder," our basketball guys automatically think, or our collector guys automatically think that means go get those LeBrons because they've fallen so much. Go get those cards that have fallen so much. Why? There might be other opportunities out there, because if I said to that same person, "Well, what about Bitcoin at 22? It was 69." And they were like, Bitcoin, Schmidtcoin. Who cares about Bitcoin? Well, LeBron, LeBron. I mean, they've. I'll bet you, and I didn't look at this. I probably should have before making this point. I bet you if you look at the LeBron Exquisite, some of these LeBron cards, and you look at the chart on them over the last couple of years, it probably mirrors Bitcoin's chart. Weird, right?
I think there's probably two camps, probably maybe more. There's the camps that would say yeah, but I don't get the feeling that I get when I hold that LeBron and I see
valid.
There's also probably the camp that's a little bit more hybrid. I gotta imagine the people that join the hobby in the last 2 years are more hybrid than true collectors. If they were true collectors, they would have been in this forever.
So where I was expecting you to go is there might even be a cause and effect. Chicken or the egg. And maybe the run up of one or the other kind of impacted. Maybe the chart on Bitcoin is running up a month or 2 or 3 before the chart on the LeBron Exquisite and some of the high end cards. And maybe a lot of the frothiness in both markets kind of correlate to people who had more buying cards. People who had more crypto were able to buy cards with their crypto. I'm not talking about the washing. I'm not talking about car washes. I mean, that's an episode for another day on a different show. But people are making a lot of money in crypto. They can get it into a hard asset, get it out the hard asset, and sell it.
It's the LeBron, the Jordan 10 that sold for 700 plus was a crypto sale. I'm certain of
I'm
that.
sure there were a lot of crypto sales. I'm sure there were a lot of crypto exchanges for cards. It's just it's interesting to watch as things cycle up, because what I hear a lot of now, and it may be correct, but I hear a lot of now is, hey, I think we've hit our bottom. Hey, I think we've hit our bottom. Hey, I think this was a luxury item. Hey, real estate might not have come down yet. That's going to come down. Well, once that comes down, you'll see the cards are starting to stabilize and go back up. I don't know if that's right. I honestly don't know. And I do see a lot of people who say, "Hey, pre-COVID, the whole spike." Remember, I used to say about the charts, and people get mad at me. I'm like, just take your chart, go back to COVID, draw a line to where we are now, and just lance off that bubble, lance off the wart that is the COVID spike, and you'll see a nice fair chart, and it'll look more reasonable for people who want to invest in the market. Um, there's a million ways of looking at it. I look at other, quote unquote asset classes. I read an article this week. I mean, you can find articles both ways saying that like the luxury watch market has way more to go down because there's a lot more being produced now. And when there are more being produced, less people looking to get in, more options, it
You do
impacts
get people
price.
saying that we think that they think we've hit bottom.
Oh yeah, yeah. Somebody I actually respect a lot in the hobby. Someone who has a collection that knocks mine, to shreds. I talked to last night. Someone who's pretty well off and knows real estate and knows that market also. Basically, telling me about how he thinks we've kind of hit the, that inflection point and start to go up. And
Interesting.
they very well be right.
Predicting economy is fool's errand. We all have
Correct.
opinions. I would put it that way. Unless it's Jim Cramer, then 100% he's wrong. So you would go the opposite direction. Seriously, you saw the tweet. Who's your favorite player, favorite team to watch right now? Basketball, football, soccer, hockey.
It's funny, man. So in basketball, it sucks that he got hurt. I started rooting for Kevin Durant. I actually like the way the guy plays. I like watching him play, on offense. I don't really have much of his cards, but was thinking about buying some. The Suns move, come see, come saw. I could see it being good. I could see it being bad. I started to, while buying and owning LeBron cards, I started to watch his game and respect the overall body of his work a lot more than I previously did. You know that. I mean, I famously said bet on LeBron to win the MVP earlier in the year and got laughed at by you. So it's funny because the old man here is leaning towards the older guys. I was enjoying watching John Morant play. I will tell you that at the National this year, I almost bought some Anthony Edwards cards. Excited to see what he did. If he could take the next step up. And I've been a little disappointed with that team and with his play. He's got some high flying stuff.
Shaq called it a breakout year for him. I was surprised to hear that because it's clearly not a breakout year. Fun little thing to look at, guys. Anytime someone's stats go up, just go to minutes per game. Just take at least a look at minutes per game because we equate like stats as like without a cause effect.
Anthony Edwards, I mean, you would think if he was going to blow up and his stats would blow up this year, I mean, Call Anthony Towns is not playing. I mean, you're missing an entirely, one of the centerpieces
Hockey,
of that
watching the Rangers, Islanders. Are you?
So I'm excited for baseball. Really? It actually starts. Like World Baseball Classic is on, which is interesting. The games are late. U.S. team plays tomorrow night, and we're recording this on Friday. Mike Trout got plunked in his first U.S. at bat. It's pretty funny. And the Cuban team's ready, basically eliminated. World Baseball Classic is fun. Doesn't happen all the time. I'm excited to see what the Yankees do. It's fun because I've become an Aaron Judge fan, and now I'm happy he's going to be here for basically his career. They signed him. I like watching him. I may buy a card of his now that he's going to basically be a Yankee for life, and we'll see what happens. I'm not investing
buy
in
your
him.
Red Ink Heritage Auto back.
I should. But what I liked about him, believe it or not, was he was one of these guys that before he got his bag, he never said anything bad because he was, he wasn't making that money yet, and he was going to be a team player, and now he got his bag, and I don't want to say it's negative, but he took a veiled shot at the front office and was like, look, this kid Volpe can play. And I'm of the opinion that it doesn't matter about service time and age.
He got his money and he was like, now my voice matters.
He's like, let's go. He's la GM. He's like, Volpe should be playing shortstop, but if he's the best player, shut up and play. No, but I actually respect it because I think it's the right take. And someone like him now who knows he's going to be here, he's not going to get traded. I do because he wants to win. And he believes that while the
What does
teams
he
can
know about winning?
that if you get a better player up there on your roster, that it'll give him a better chance to win this year rather than keeping a better player in the minors so that the team has control over him for another year.
I see.
That's what
It's
he's
not
trying.
about
He's
his
trying to say.
talent. It's about
No,
the money.
he's trying to say. No, he's trying to say.
You just paid me
Volpe.
all this
He's trying
money.
to say Bit will be up here on opening day instead of waiting until like the All-Star break. This way we have him under team control for another year because let me get his
Right.
wins. Let me get his talent right now. Let me get the
Correct.
better player up here. And he had never said anything like that previously. Never.
What do you think about this pitch clock thing?
I mean,
some people are bugging out about it.
so to me, I'm glad that people are bugging out about it. I think on purpose, the league is making things happen where you bug out. This way, all of the speed bumps are taken out during the preseason and the players are aware of it in games that don't matter. I don't think you're going to have that stuff in games that matter. I think you're going to see that. Just like it's harder to get a pass interference call the last play of the game in the NFL. That's where the refs don't leave it in the refs' hands, although it always seems to come down to the refs' hands. I think it'll be the same kind of management of the clock.
The umps are going to have a lot of flexibility of how they enforce the rules, though, too.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I don't mind it, dude. You know what I saw the other day? I saw you have a free throw clock. I saw a stat that in the preseason, the average games are down like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
The game times is, and that's we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Because of all this craziness. Basketball, I saw the longest, somebody did this on Twitter. It was a great tweet that I saw, a side-by-side comparison. The longest NFL play ever went down as a 109-yard return. Cordero Patterson from basically stepping on the edge of the end zone and running it all the way back. The longest play you could ever have in the NFL.
13 seconds.
He did all of that in less time than it took Giannis to shoot one free throw. And they showed it, and they're like, what the hell? Watch Giannis try to shoot a free throw, and instead you can watch the entire longest NFL play ever before he even takes his free throw.
I think 2.5 hours is like that sweet spot. 2.5 hours. Because the first half hour you could miss, and then you got basically a 2-hour thing. And for the loyal fan, 2.5 hours. That's where I think NBA is pretty good at. Some games obviously go over, but 2.5 hours.
We'll see what happens, man.
College is 2 hours. Colleges.
They could tweak it.
Baseball was 3.5, 4 hours at times.
They could always get rid of the batting clock in the 9th inning and tie games or something like that. If it's, this way it's not something that decides it. They could always tweak it a little bit. That's not going to really impact the timing of it and still stay with why they're trying to do it. I like that they're trying something. You know what I mean? Try. It's adapt or die. Like Andrew said.
Gotta. And dude, 3.5 hours 50 years ago is not the same as 3.5 hours now. You're distracted now. Listening to this episode, you've probably had 50 distractions. I guarantee you haven't even watched a movie recently without checking your phone. So 3.5 hours in baseball now, it doesn't even make any sense.
It's a different sport. The way people consume it is different, right? It's a television sport. It wasn't invented as a television sport. It was invented as a day in the park with the family, go out there and eat hot dogs and radio.
Vince Scully, right? It was calling the game. They used to have the coolest baseball is known for the commentators, the play-by-play guys or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I bought a card last night.
Of Vince Scully?
No, another Griffey for my collection. I've been buying shiny 90s Griffies, but I bought it was
You
raw.
guys need to get off Griffey's nuts. That's that's for real.
Because of his short arms. I got so many messages.
Arms.
They're like, what's wrong with Andrew? Why is he talking about Ken Griffey Jr.'s arms?
You guys have issues that listen to the show. Things that I say are facts, and you're like, what's wrong with Andrew? I didn't make the card. I don't know if his arms are actually that short. What's wrong with Andrew for pointing out that Griffey's arms are short? My bad. I won't say anything about Desmond Bain or anybody else's stature.
It's funny, man. We're on his nuts because he has long arms. He has short arms. All right, so what do you bring?
Oh, let me tell you a story about how everyone in the 90s used to wear their cap backwards. It's because this guy, Ken Griffey Jr., winning doesn't matter. Who cares?
I know everybody here listening wants to know. I did compliment Rick Probstein's yarmulke, like I said I was going to do. I did tell him that. He did not think it was funny. We chatted about a lot of stuff. Nice guy. No,
why would a compliment be funny?
He did not find the humor in it at all. But what's real knowledgeable guy. I mean, real smart dude. Makes you want to think about where you're putting your money in the hobby.
Jordan 10s. Is he worried that any of his Jordan 10s are part of that scandal? Or we could talk about that on Monday or Tuesday.
I doubt it. I doubt it. But yeah, I mean, listen, we still have to talk about set collectors, but
Oh,
we're gonna be
true.
pushing that episode to another day, I guess. Guys, do me a favor. Take a listen to some of the PC with DPZ episodes. I re-listened to them. We're actually clipping some of the best moments. This way you get to see kind of like the quotes from Chris Hoge and Josh Cardboard Chronicles and, Drake and all the people who have been on the Collectors series with DPZ. I mean, just really cool episodes. I'll give Chris Hoge a lot of credit. One of the clips that we'll have in our video, it could be, it's funny, the ringer guys, they'll take shots at me, right? But I'm going to say something here. That could be, if we clip the quote from Chris Hoge on the DPZ episode, that could be kind of the clip that we play for someone as to why they should get into this hobby as opposed to anything else. It could be kind of like the intro to why this hobby, why spend your time and
Microsoft,
your money here. Why
Burger King, McDonald's, Coke, Vincent Chase.
Vinny Chase. That's right. No, but seriously, like, very passionate, very, evidence based. It was a really cool thing. There's some, you got to balance it out, guys. And, every once in a while, remember, what props up the hobby, what props this stuff up is basically a bunch of lunatics who love collecting. And DPZ gets right to the heart of that in his collector series. So take a listen on those. I'm sure this coming week I'll have another episode of Black Jada Wolf Uncaged. Her crew was split
she's
between Dallas
and
and she's going to be personally in Dallas. I'll be in Philly. Her team will be in Philly. So we're going to have the ability to talk about both of those. Rented a car to drive to Philly. Sweet talk the rental car place. I have a Mustang.
That's sick.
I'm going to be driving a little Mustang to
What
Philly
jersey
show.
is he going to wear?
Maxi. Got a Maxi
nice.
jersey. A Maxi jersey. Hopefully we get to meet Maxi. But listen, enjoying ourselves. The next episode will be the PWCC weekly episode. We'll talk about some cards there. And I'm trying to think what else we got on the hockey.
I'm loving hockey. I'm loving hockey. So many good matches.
Still Kaprasov.
Kaprizov, first off. Kirill Kaprizov is sick. The Wild are going to be a tough out. No, Edmonton played the Bruins last night.
Yep.
Edmonton.
Yeah. So who was at that game?
Won 3-2.
I think Shyway Vlogs was at that game. Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool. He had a kosher meal and then went, if you follow his story. Empire makes him eat kosher and then he goes to the hockey game and he eats chicken fingers. It's all about the food.
I never follow Shyway's story. And
I follow it, but still can't follow it. Does that make sense?
I think the mystery makes him that much more appealing.
I love him. That's a must-follow hobby.
Yeah, but you can't say why. You can't be
say why I love him.
Because you don't even know what any of the stories are.
And succinctly for Cage, I love him because of his lunacy. It's just it is. There's a phrase for it that's currently evading me, but it's something like a controlled explosion. There's a phrase like that, but that's basically what he's
so
like.
Crazy, it just might work.
There's a demolition going on, but I think it's planned out. You know what I mean? Like it's an explosion, but I think there's a method to it, right? It's not just everything going everywhere. If you did a
poll, I think 99-1 would say it's not planned.
All right. I mean, listen, so you like in hockey. I will give hockey credit for one thing. There are more hockey teams that don't end with an S than any other sport. Have you noticed that? Like Yankees, Giants, you go to football, Panthers. In hockey, you got things like Wild, right? You got the Wild. And you can go through it. There's a couple. Go through them all.
Grizzlies. Why not?
That's NBA. I'm talking about hockey. Now let's go through. You're a hockey fan.
I'm testing.
They're all S's because it's the team. Sixers. It's a plural, right? Sixers. Like there's very few teams that don't end in an S. But hockey has sort of bucked that trend.
Maple Leafs.
Look at you going through them all. I love it. I got you thinking.
Are we doing set collecting, or are we going to save that for next week?
No, tell me how many hockey teams that don't end in an S, because there's quite a few of them. And remember, in baseball, you have the White Sox and the Red Sox. And even though it sounds like an S, it's not an S. In basketball, you have left out the Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Utah Jazz. In hockey, the Lightning, the Wild, your favorite team, the Avalanche. I mean, there's not that many teams that don't end in an S, man. So anyway, just one of those crazy things that that Cage thinks about from time to time. You left, so we can't talk about set collecting, but it's good. We're 50 minutes in. We can talk about set collecting another day. That's a full episode, dude. You loving
Will's really
life?
excited. Yeah,
You
I've
loving
been fine.
collecting?
Yeah.
Enjoying collecting? Enjoying the hobby?
Will wants you to talk about set collecting.
It's a disease. I
It's
think
going to
only
cost you a
true
lot of money.
collectors. I think only true collectors are set builders and set collectors.
What
And
is it about the chase?
it's a bunch of things. I'll have notes. I'll actually be a little organized. Organized chaos. There we go. That's Shayway Vlogs.
Peace.
With nearly 40 years as the most trusted resource for collectors, dating back to the first Beckett magazine in 1984, Beckett has been the brand that bridges generations of the hobby. We're happy to be partnering with Beckett and look forward to keeping you all updated on the big things happening at the company in 2023. Beckett. It's the name you know and the name you can trust.